And there is the assembled core and the outer tube. The next process will be wrapping it with, no, actually we're going to leave the fiberglass for last. The next step will be to install the threaded inserts so it can bolt onto the pipe. So now I've got my mounting flange centered above the back end of the muffler. I'm going to scribe my hole locations. Now I'll use my automatic center punch. To punch the holes before I drill them. And you'll end up with something that looks like that. And I'm not going to bore you with the drilling. Everybody's seen somebody drill a hole before. So I'm going to drill all these to size, and then I'll show you how we put the thread inserts in. So now I'm done drilling all the holes in the bottom to mount it, and I'm using a rivet nut tool. It uses a threaded insert that you screw onto the end of the mandrel and insert it like that. And I like to spin it down more, give it one last squeeze, unscrew it, and that's what you end up with, a pop rivet with threads. I'll install 4 more, and after that we will pack the mufflers. Okay, so now it's time to pack the muffler, and I think I found an affordable solution for packing this muffler. There's I looked on the internet, and there's basically 2 things that you can use. You can use fiberglass muffler packing, or you can use stainless steel. And neither one looked like it would be very economical, because you got 4 of these mufflers to pack on this bike, and enough to do each muffler was, depending on what you bought, either the fiberglass kits ran anywhere from $20 to $30, and enough of the stainless steel material to do that was even more. There was one company I saw out there, they wanted just for a roll 4 inches wide and ½ an inch thick. It was like $70. So I found these. They're Dawn, I don't know if you can see in the light in here, dish scrubbers, stainless steel scouring pads, and they work pretty neat. They're like they come in a ball, but if you work your fingers in there and find the center, they stretch out almost like a tube. If you keep on working it and find the center, it'll almost come apart. So then once you've got that, just get it started. It's like you're putting on a sock. Stretch it over the end. I can slide it part way over this other one. So now I've only used 2 of these, and I'm about halfway done with it. I think I got each one of these packages. I bought them over at Menards. I think they were like $1.98 a pop. So let me go ahead and off camera I will finish wrapping this up and I'll show you what the final product looks like. So there you go. How easy is that? With the other product, you have to go ahead and wrap it all the way around, then use tie wire to keep it tight. Now this one it'll stay on just like it's supposed to. And that's it. Now your muffler is packed. The next trick I wanted to show you I'm going to use is how I'm going to space the rivets. I'm going to have 4 rivets 90 degrees apart. So I figured out an easy way for me. I took and made a paper strip. I just basically used pi for circumference times 3 inches, and for some reason, I'm not sure why, it ended up coming out a little bit short. It was the calculation didn't work, even though it should. The end of that paper band didn't quite wrap. There's just a little bit of a gap. So I stretched it out a little bit. And with AutoCAD it's real easy, because that way you can just go ahead and draw this strip. It'll automatically, you can divide it. So I've got 4 rivet spaces. So you just take this tape, wrap it around, until it meets. Let me bring it close in so you guys can see that. So now, right where that comes in the line, drill one hole. I will tape this up when I actually go to do it. 1 rivet hole there. You can see that X. Oh, my lighting's kind of poor. 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, and then 1 there. The trick is you want to orient them. We'll have to draw a line and then make sure that those gaps line up. That way you won't have your, 4 rivet locations cocked in relation to the other 2. So let me go ahead and tape that up and we'll rivet it together. Okay guys, slight change in plans. I decided to upgrade my rivet size. I went to a 1/4 inch rivet instead of a 3/16. I think it looks a lot better. My lighting's not so good, but I think that'll look much better than having this small rivet. One advantage of having this whole core all soldered together is once you get your first rivet, then you're good to go with everything else. So what I'm going to do is tape off in 2 more spots, get rid of this paper, shove that rivet down so it's nice and tight. Right now I got a bit of a gap. Rivet that in, then I can go ahead and drill and rivet everything else, because nothing will change as far as twist or anything goes, because once you get your first one in, everything's locked in. If you guys don't have one, get yourself one of these, an automatic center punch. For doing work like this, it's perfect. Because when you need to line something up but you can't really use a hammer, because maybe it's something delicate, or you just need to see where it's at. This has got a pretty fine tip to it. I'll hold like that so you can see it. So just line it up on the crease and on the line, and just give it a push. It's adjustable for how hard it hits. Right now I got it maxed out, and that gives you a nice little center punch. We'll come over here, punch that one, and then before I go out and do the next ones, I'm going to go ahead and drill and then rivet my first one so nothing moves, and then we'll go ahead and go all the way around, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. And one more thing I wanted to mention about riveting or just drilling in general. go ahead and give yourself a smaller bit to start with. Like this is an 1/8 inch bit, and then 3/16 is going to be my final rivet size. If you go ahead and start drilling with the 3/16 bit, it can walk. So always start with a smaller bit and work your way up. It's one more step, but the end result is definitely worth the time. Okay, so here's how it looks after I got my first 2 rivets in. I think it looks pretty good with the size of the rivet and proportion to everything. One thing I want to add, your drill bits are going to get real grabby as soon as you punch through, because it's going to want to pull up that stainless steel wool stuffing. So you end up having to use a scraper, push it back down a little bit. But when you're drilling through, you want to make sure that your drill bit just barely penetrates through. You don't want to try and go all the way through, otherwise it's going to snag up and you'll have to deal with that. So I did the first 2. I did all my pre-drilling with my first 1/8 inch hole, and now I got my 2 on the bottom. Now I'm going to go 180 degrees from it and do that one. I want to draw this all in evenly, and then I'll go ahead and get the ones at the 90-degree points. And that's what we're going to do. That's how it turns out. Oh, and do yourself a favor, put a rag down. You don't want to go scratching the snout out of your finished muffler at this stage of the game. I want to make sure you protect it so it's not all scratched up. And you'll be spending way too much time trying to polish all the scratches out. So here's the finished muffler. And one thing I didn't mention, but it's pretty important, when you orient the outer sleeve to the core, you have to set it so that the rivets are not going to be in line with the rivet nuts. As you can tell, these are just off to the side. If these were lined up straight with it, you'd have interference problems. It'd be a real pain. Then you'd have to go ahead and just twist it. It really matters. As long as you drilled your holes every 90 degrees, you would just have to twist the core. There'd be one extra hole on the inside of your ring. Not that big of a deal, but... So there's the finished muffler. It's going to get a brushed finish right now. It's still got some manufacturer markings on the tube. But that's really about all it needs. So now it's packed and it's got a nice straight through design. You can see inside there lots of holes. So it should breathe nice and should muffle pretty well. We'll see. Bottom line on cost, I think I spent on all the aluminum to build a set of 4 mufflers, and I've got some material left. For the sheet aluminum that I used for making these discs, and also some of the baffle plates that are involved in the upper mufflers, and then the 2 different sizes of tube. I mail ordered the tubing. I think I got it from Speedy Metals online. I think I spent somewhere around $60 to $70. I think it was like 67, 68 bucks for enough material to make this. Then you figure I spent about $18 or so on all these stainless scrubby pads. And incidental to this project, I did an upgrade. I got myself had to get a bigger rivet gun to handle these 1/4 inch rivets. That's not really a part of the cost as long as you have it. So really, it's what, about $90 to go ahead and do this. And then you figure you're going to get material to do 4 of them. So the price is really good. I think it's well worth it to do it. There's other mufflers I've seen for sale out there. They cost a lot more, and who knows if it's going to fit. You're going to have to make your own flanges, of course, to adapt to whatever you're using. So it was well worth my time to go ahead and build it. as long as we're talking about flanges, I welded these up, made the plates and welded the tube to it. But when you're laying out these holes, none of them are going to come out exactly the same every time. Even though I was using a template, you know, the drill bits walk a little bit, stuff like that. So you'll end up making these 4 holes a little bit oversized. So one thing that I did, just to save myself some confusion later on, I don't know if you guys can see that, but right there I've got punch marks. You see those 2 punch marks right there? Those will line up with the punch marks on this disc. Actually, those punch marks are the right ones. There you go. Saving me already. Line the 2 up. Bingo, there you go. Which will come in handy for maintenance later on when it comes time to work on the bike. If you take the silencers off, you'll have no question as to which one fits. So that's how I make the mufflers. One detail I wanted to show about making the upper mufflers is that the short sections only take one of these scrubbers to do each one. Just sort of roll it, and you can find the center of it. Both your fingers meet. Stretch it out. It'll just fit right over the top. And this lower one, or I should say the one that has the mounting on it, the thread inserts, one of these scrubber pads fits in there just perfect. And there it is. Fits really well. Now the upper one gets a little bit taller. So this one will do the same thing. Find the center. Put your fingers in there. Just flip it right over the top. And once you scrunch it all into the cap area here, you still need to do a little more. But a whole one would be too much. So what I did is I took some scissors and I cut one of these in half, lengthwise. So it's still in a tube, basically. So it'll fit right on there. So basically I took the scrubber and I cut it in half this way. You wouldn't want to go this way, the whole thing would unwrap, and then you'd have to use tie wire or something to hold it on there. Like if you were using a normal stainless steel wool packing. This is where the product itself holds itself on there. Squish it on. And that's that. The other different thing I wanted to point out is there's a space in between both of these sections. The way the muffler is designed, you do not want to fill that space in there with any of the packing. You want to keep it separate. So basically this one goes here, the other one stops about there. You can see that. The other section stops about where my finger is, so there's a space in between the two. That way my lighting's not very well, but the exhaust gas are going to come flowing through all of those holes, and then they'll hit that space, expand, and then go through these holes, through this packing, the perforated core, and then out the exit. And just tuck all the little ends in. Give it a squeeze and you are good to go. And then we'll put the template wraps for the riveting around the top. Tape it like we did before. Drill, insert our rivets, and the mufflers are done. I think the next thing I'll show you is how the mufflers are mounted on the bike to wrap it all up. One more detail I wanted to show is that anyone who's owned a two-stroke bike knows that in time you're going to have two-stroke oil and residue dripping out of the tip of your exhaust. It's just something that happens. And if I don't seal it, you're going to have that along the joints of the cans too. So just so we don't have that problem, I'm going to use some sealant. Whatever you got that doesn't get hard. This is a pliable type of sealant, so an RTV would work. Whatever type of sealant you have that is non-hardening would be a good choice. This particular stuff I'm using, I don't know, got it off the shelf. Master brand gasket maker number 2. Seems to work pretty good. It's a little on the runny side, but get that on that flange. Find the sweet spot and get her all together. Okay, I'll wipe the excess off and now it's ready to rivet shut. And here's a look at the mufflers once they're complete. I used a stainless steel bristle brush and gave them a brushed finish. I think it turned out looking pretty nice. You could polish them if you wanted, but the brushed finish resembles quite a bit what the factory one was, although I think it had like a lacquer coating of some type over it, and it's kind of what they turned out like. All 4 of them. So I think they turned out pretty good. And the next video I'm going to post will be the completed pipes with temperature probes for O2 sensors and exhaust gas temperature. So stay tuned for those. Thanks for watching.